Okay, thank you. So I apologize for the late start, so I'll just try to get started, and then if people keep popping in, great. Welcome everyone to our Building Level Advisory Committee meeting. Good to see everybody. My name's Aura Russell-Better. I'm the District 4 School Board member and chair of the committee, and I don't believe Pius Ali, who is traveling in Ghana right now, he said he might be able to hop on. So if he does, that will be a great surprise, but it's very late there. I know we haven't met since, I think it was January, right? I was looking at the minutes, January 27th. So I know we have a lot to catch up on. I'm just going to look at my attendance here and just ask people to, say that you're here. And this may not be the most updated list, but I will just go ahead and ask for attendance. You can just say that you're here. Is Bill Dodson here? I don't think I see Bill. Okay. Liz, I see. Liz LaPierre's here. How about Eva? Maniac. I don't see Eva. Jeff Levine. See Jeff. Okay. How about Jeremy? There's Jeremy. You're here. Okay. Laura, I think said she was going to come a little late. I don't see Laura yet. How about Lauren? Lauren Rosenberg. When I see you now, awesome. Lauren, I don't see, right? Did I miss her now? Okay. Luke. Luke's here. Great. How about Matthew? Matthew Peters. Sarah McMath. Don't see Sarah. Okay, and then we have staff. I see Angie's here. Yay, I saw Annie's here. Emily Herlihy. I didn't see, is Holly Johnson still doing the committee? Does anybody know? I don't know if I met her in the last one, so okay. And I see Lorraine. Thanks. And then how about Scott? Scott's from Reiki, right?
Yes, Scott's not here.
Not here, okay. And then Ted. Hi, Ted. Ted's here. And then Terry, I didn't see. So, okay, we got Ted.
Terry's going to be late.
Okay, great.
And Holly, and I don't think Holly's participating anymore. Okay. She took a job somewhere else.
Thank you. And I'll add Nell, because I saw Nell.
Oh, yeah. Is she here? Good.
I was going to try and get it. All right, cool. Glad Nell could come. And then I can just check off the staff, and you all can introduce in a minute. Okay, so thank you, everybody. So we do have to do a little bit of business of just peeking up the minutes. So I don't know if everybody had a chance or not, but the minutes are in board docs, and it was a few months ago. So if people didn't have a chance yet, if you're able to just peek at it, it's pretty quick. But we do have to approve those tonight. So does anybody feel comfortable making a motion to approve the minutes? And then we can just, with a show of hands, approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
And then we need someone to second.
Second.
All right, great. And so if anybody peeks at the minutes and sees, this is a chance, if you see anything that you have any comment about or correction, you're welcome to share that. But otherwise, I'll just ask with a show of hands, all who are in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting. I believe it was January 27th. So raise your hand. Okay, great. Looks like it's approved by everyone. Yep, I think that's all the members of the committee approved. Okay, great. So we can.
Hey, Aura.
Yeah.
Laura Freeze is trying to get in. She needs to be let in.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So Anna can let Laura in. Thank you. So, okay, so we should be all set with the minutes. So I think and please forgive me for just having to look at my little reminder of the things that I need to make sure we get to. So sorry, let me just find my little cheat sheet. So I think maybe we'll just do a quick intro of staff, and then I just wanted to kind of just ground us with a little background before we get started. So would Harriman staff that are here mind just saying hello and introduce yourself, and then our district staff that are here, just so I know it's been a while since we've all been together, but just to kind of let everybody know who what our roles are. So I don't know if Mark and Lisa, you want to go?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Aura. Glad to be with everyone tonight. We are looking forward to bringing everyone up to speed, sharing progress on several fronts. And so my name is Mark Lee, for those who haven't met me, and I'm one of the architects on the project. And I'm joined competently by my colleagues, Lisa and Emily. Lisa, go ahead.
Good evening. Good to see many of you and meet some of you for the first time. I'm Lisa Sawin, also an architect with Harriman. And also with us is Emily Waugh. Emily?
Hi there. I'm Emily Waugh. I'm sure many of you have gotten emails from me and are familiar, but good to see you all.
All right, then. And if you don't know who Steve is, you got to know who Steve is. So, Steve, do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. Good evening, everybody. It's Steve Stolfin, Facilities Director, Portland Public Schools. And with me tonight is Laura Jolly, Owner's Representative from CHA. And Laura, I'll turn to you.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, my name is Laura Jolly, and I'm with CHA, the Owner's Project Manager on the 3 schools.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. So I think before we jump into the agenda, I just kind of wanted to give a little acknowledgement. I mean, I know we didn't meet there were a couple of meetings that we didn't end up having for various reasons, but I just want to acknowledge that there's been a lot going on. There have been some challenges and certainly delays with the projects, which we're going to learn more details about those soon. But I also wanted to really emphasize that all 3 of our projects, Reiki and Longfellow and Presumpscot, are moving forward, and just we'll have a chance to look at some of the pictures of some progress too, but just kind of wanted to stay in that positive moving forward frame of mind as we get into things tonight. And Chair Figdor was able to share at a meeting last week that she was able to go inside Reiki and go into a classroom where students have been in a new space with walls and I believe a door. I think I saw there's a picture of a door, so that was a pretty a great after so many years of her being involved with this, to be able to see that progress was great to hear. And then I'll just share at Presumpscot, my daughter's school community, just being able to see, walking to school and watching the steel framing go up, and every day kind of seeing further progress has been really exciting to watch too. And then Longfellow, am I correct that there's some classroom space? Maybe somebody can help me with that. Are there students in the space now? Maybe.
Yeah, or we've got newly renovated classrooms that students are back in those rooms as well. So.
Great, thank you. So we'll hear more about that, but just to kind of ground us in some concrete improvement that we've seen, and we'll have a chance to talk about some of the challenges that we've been faced with too. But I just want to really give us something to acknowledge that we do have moving forward, and maybe some of you have been able to go into the buildings to see as well, but I know some of us haven't had a chance to for quite a while now, so I think it'll be really exciting when we can start to see ourselves and our students get to see and experience some of the progress. So okay, so thank you. So with that, I don't know if Mark or who's going to be moving us forward in the agenda, but I'll just let people know we'll have plenty of chance for questions and comments. So when we get to that to the time in the evening, I just ask people to use the raise your hand feature so I can kind of keep up with it and make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. So I will hand it over to whoever's going to get us going here. Is it you, Mark, or Lisa?
Yes, I'll start. We'll be, I'm sure, sharing the presentation tonight here between us. So hopefully everyone can see the screen all right. I see some head nods, so that's a good sign. Technology is working now. And so the agenda that we've got prepared is we've already accomplished one, and we've started introduced the aspect that we're going to update folks on 2 really important aspects of progress. One is the actual construction. Lisa's going to lead us through that, and it'd be great to hear some of the folks that live it every day maybe can chime in as well. And then we're going to get into the other aspect that we've been dealing with, and that is an update on the delay claims and how that's impacted costs and schedules of the projects. And so we'll go through quite a bit of the information there and what has been settled to date and where that kind of puts things. And then we'll talk about our next meeting. So with that, here's the construction update. The pretty pictures of fun stuff. So Lisa?
I think as Javier puts it, it's the puppy dogs, right? So construction update, we have one for each of the schools. This is Longfellow. And you can see the text on the left-hand side kind of summarizing what is going on. Some things of note, the addition, the CMU walls are almost complete for what we refer to as stair 4, but it's the stair and the addition. And you can see in the lower left-hand image that CMU block is the stair tower being erected. And you see some of the foundation walls right in front of us as well. And then the elevator addition is ongoing. So in the lower right-hand corner, you can see that coming up out of the ground and progress being made there. On the lower level, we have ductwork being installed. In phase 3, which is the first floor, abatement is complete and interior framing and ductwork is being installed at the nurse, OTPT records, math intervention, toilet principal, and K3 resource spaces. And so that's the rooms. When you come in, the original front door, that would be to the right-hand side. So that's exciting. Blaine Casey, the contractor, worked on clearing what we refer to as a punch list. And so that's when they have said, we believe we're almost done with the construction of these different areas. They go and then we identify areas that they need to complete to be in alignment with the documents. And so they're almost through that for the phase 2, and complete turnover happened at April school vacation. And so the image in the upper left is a completed classroom. So new cubbies and casework, as well as new flooring and paint and ceilings. And interesting note is the flooring, what is driving sort of that shape on the floor is really visibility from the corridor. And so that's the area that can't be seen from the corridor. So during lockdowns, kids know to get on the red tiles and they can be out of sight. So it's a nice visual cue for safety and security, as well as a nice dynamic feature on the floor. And Blaine Casey is working on preparations for summer work. And the one thing I didn't mention, that framing that you see in the upper right are the areas that I mentioned previously that are being framed. So spaces have been turned over, and stuff is ongoing, and lots happening. Any questions on Longfellow before we jump to Przemska? Oh, and I apologize, it's Reiki. So Reiki has been probably the most drastic transformation of the 3, especially with no walls being in the spaces. So it's been really fun to watch as those spaces get turned over, as it is in any of the schools, but just to see the excitement of the kids and teachers with something that, some of us take for granted, walls and doors and ceilings. Phase 1 construction is complete, and the children returned after April break to those classrooms. And it's hard for us to get into those spaces because it seems like they don't want to leave for us to be able to take a picture inside. So we get a lot of pictures through the windows. But of note, the nice thing is that large window was to maintain visibility into classrooms and into the other spaces in the school. We heard from the teachers, as much as they want doors and walls, they wanted to maintain that connective nature and essence of the school. The lower left, although small images, what it shows is the lower left-hand corner is the art room before that space was renovated. And then the picture next to it is the same back corner of what used to be the art room, now converted to a classroom. So it shows the transformation and how much brighter the space is. Other happenings, the temporary fire separation wall is completed between phase 2 in the classroom. So getting ready for the next phase of construction. And the first floor saw cutting, which is where we cut into the floor to be able to run utilities and things like that, was completed over April vacation for new sinks and toilet rooms. Anything from, I see that we have a couple of the lead teachers on, anything about the spaces and what's happening at the school that you'd like to add?
I would just add that the spaces are really nice, and the really nice learning environments, and we're eager to continue moving through the progress of the project.
Excellent. And last but not least, Scott. As Aura mentioned, steel is up and continuing. The Area B, and for those that don't know what Area B is the back addition, where the major addition is with the pre-K, K, music, art, and cafeteria. So the structural frame has been erected. White Engineering has inspected the steel frame in this area and found it to be acceptable, and they'll come back for more inspections after all the metal deck is installed. And cold form framing and dense glass sheathing is being installed, essentially the infill of the exterior walls. Asbestos abatement was completed in the existing building over April vacation, and preparations are underway for new construction at the new entrance and admin addition out front. And so a little bit about the pictures you're seeing. The upper left-hand picture is where you're seeing that steel being erected. Over to the upper right is where a new egress, safe egress path from the existing building is being constructed so that we can take the front entrance offline while they build the addition. And the lower left-hand image that is all blue right now, you can start to see the rhythm of the playful windows that are created in the pre-K and K classrooms looking outside. And then on the right-hand lower corner, that is inside those spaces looking out through those windows. And I believe we have Angie on the line. Angie, anything you want to add about the progress happening at the school? We may have lost Angie. Any questions folks have? All right. I'll pass back to you, Mark.
All right, thank you. So that's as Laura was saying at the beginning, there's a lot of really great progress. The contractors are moving forward, and we're in a rhythm of things, and so it's great to see progress every day. One of the things that we did have to contend with, and we began the conversation with this group in January at our last meeting, was the delays that the contractors had before they could start the work caused by the permitting. The permits came later than anticipated, and the contractors couldn't start really a lot of the construction activities until those permits were received from the city. So there's this allows the contractor, if there is a delay in the schedule that they didn't anticipate, they can put in what is shown in quotes as a delay claim. And so that's costs that they will incur or have incurred because they were unable to start when they anticipated starting, and the impact that has on the schedule of them attempting to complete the work by the time we ask them to complete it. So a little bit of just background on that. The cost that they can charge as part of those delay claims is the second paragraph, and they may need additional labor force to get the work done. They may encounter what we call winter conditions, which require them to heat different areas of construction activity to a certain temperature in order to install the materials. A lot of times materials have a range in which they can effectively be installed, and sometimes requires tenting a portion of the project or providing additional heat. And then the other consideration that's identified here is possible material price increases. But what we've been careful to have a conversation with the contractors with respect to material price increases, and that's really that they had the opportunity to purchase materials after the contracts were awarded. So there's, and Laura can sort of confirm the strategy with that has been that we have really questioned that, and I don't believe that any of the delay claims include material increases. It's for the other items that we've talked about. All right. So before I guess move from delay claim, any questions on that portion of the costs? All right. The next cost potentially encumbered by the contractors as we went through the permitting process is what we've termed the new work. And new work is any work that was not originally identified when they put their pricing together. So we gave it to several contractors. The contractors all looked at the same amount of work and what we're asking them to do. And we had multiple bids on the different school projects. And so anything that changes to the drawings after they've submitted their price is they're allowed to request compensation for the new work. And so as we went through the permitting process, there was new work that was required or requested as part of that, the comments received from the plan reviewers at the city. And so that is the new work that we're referring to here. And so we do have a contingency in the projects, and we'll talk a little bit about the contingencies here, but we have construction contingencies to accommodate changes in work as we move through the construction for normal changes that we would see as part of that. And we carried 5% contingency, 5% of the construction cost as construction contingency for things we would encounter going through the project. The new work that we're identifying here is work that or changes that we didn't contemplate at the outset of the project. And so, and we'll get into a little more detail here in a minute. But any questions on new work before we move to the next slide? Okay. The schedule impact is the other part of it. So we do have cost impacts and we have a schedule impact that because they were delayed in starting the work, that's pushed the schedule out longer. And so the extensions of schedules that we're showing here have been reviewed and vetted through the contractors providing new schedules. So the Longfellow will finish 4 months later than originally anticipated. So it will finish instead of at the start of school in September of 2023, it will actually complete in December of 2023. And then they will also need, because that's in the cold months time, they're going to need some time in the summer just to clean up some of the site work that can't be done in December. So that's why there's a 1 month in the summer of 2024, but that won't impact occupancy of the spaces in the building. Reiki is also a 4 month, and so it follows the same construction sequencing that we're in a similar way that Longfellow did, and so that is moved out 4 months to December 2023. And so the idea is to finish these at the completion of the fall term before starting in January. Presumpscot right now is identified as 5 months, completing in January. Right now, we're working hard to see how that how we can maybe make up a little bit of that time and get it done in December. But that right now is our understanding of what the delays caused by, or the extensions in schedule caused by the delays in permitting. And questions here? Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Annie.
It felt like they caught up. I mean, I thought we were going to transition in April break, and we did transition at April break. And so I'm wondering where the delays are going to live in the schedule.
So, in which school in particular, Annie?
Sorry, this is Reiki I'm talking about.
Yeah, for Reiki. So I'll actually ask either Laura. I don't know if you're right there, but I think you've been intimately involved, or Lisa, in some of where that schedule is. But
yeah. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Where will the delays happen? You know, we've got these sort of transition points where, like, we moved third grade up to the new classrooms. We were supposed to do that April break, and we did do it April break. And so I'm just wondering where will the delay live?
Yeah, so that was actually supposed to happen well before April break originally. And so that was supposed to happen before the December break. And so everything was supposed to happen kind of on a by year, you know, December and then June. And so that one slid to April. And so things have shifted because of that.
Okay, thank you. My mistake.
Yeah, and it may not be a mistake. The schedules we've seen lots of schedules on our end, so there may have been schedules shared with you that were after some of the delay was known. So now we get into some of what these delay costs are, and the first one that we identified, because the contractor came forward first with it, was the Longfellow delay claim. And so the delay claim itself, originally, the cost information provided to us from the contractor was for a claim of $707,000. And whenever we receive any delay claim, it's part of our due diligence and responsibility as both the architect on the project, but also the owner's representative in acting on behalf of the owner to review the submitted costs, to look at the detail that the contractor provides, and ask questions and validate what the costs are. And so there were many meetings and both reviewing the contractor and their subcontractor information, clarifications requested. The revised claim was for $630. That was further reviewed. Another revised claim of $580. And the final, after reviewing all of this several times with, again, the general contractor, Blaine Casey, as well as the subcontractors on the project, the final claim was $462,523. And so that was the amount that they incurred for those costs that we talked about at the beginning, for additional labor or for winter conditions or temporary heat, and for supervisory costs that may have been a result of having staff on the job longer because of the delay in the schedule or the extension of the schedule. The new work for Longfellow, associated with the comments that we received from the permitting, originally was $46,000, and the final amount was validated at $41,698. So the total delay for the Longfellow was just over $500,000. I'll pause for a minute. Okay. And certainly if we need to go back to review information, we can.
Mark,
yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, Luke.
Hey, Mark. I'm just curious. So is that subject to change with continued supply chain issues and whatnot?
Yeah. So that's a good question, Luke. So this is when we say final claim for the delay in getting them started, which is a known item now. They finally they received the permit, and as soon as they received the permit, that then they could establish firmly the quantity of new work and the quantity of time, or the delay claim itself, or the time. So that portion of the cost is established and is not subject to change. Right now, when the contractor submitted their price for doing the project, the contract itself does not allow the contractor to charge for cost escalation of materials. There is no escalation clause in these contracts. And so supply chain issues that may impact getting materials or the cost of materials is not something that the contractors have an entitlement to per the conditions of the contract.
Cool. Thank you.
At Presumpscot,
Can I add something there too?
Please, Steve. Yep.
In the contract as described by Mr. Lee, Mark, but it won't stop them from asking.
Good point.
Be
Absolutely.
prepared.
Yep. And we're seeing this across the industry right now. It's a really tough time because the costs are real, and so it's a real conversation on small and large projects. So. Presumpscot was a little bit of a complicated rollout of the final claims, and so we presented an initial final claim for the Presumpscot delay claim component. It was originally submitted at about $121,000, and that's for Great Falls Construction for their costs for the delay. And that was further evaluated and vetted down to $95,800. And then the new work costs originally were $139,000. There was some additional items that were vetted forward as part of the conditions of the permit that brought it up to $193,000. And at the time, at first presentation, we understood these to be the total amounts for the delay claim, and they were authorized on the April 5th school board meeting to settle those numbers. And so that was the first of it. We were subsequently, information came forward that did not include the original delay claim did not include cost for primarily for two subcontractors, the electrical and mechanical subcontractor. And so their delay claims added originally was $205,000, and that was further reduced to $170,000 through again a lot of important review and of details and conversations. And so the total, and that was brought back to the school board on May 3rd to settle that amount. And so that settled the total for Presumpscot at $460,000 for their delay. So that was the settling of those two schools at just under $1 million for those. And any questions before I move to Reiki? Okay.
Emily has questions.
Oh, sorry, Emily. Yep.
That's fine. Thank you. I think this is more of a question for Aura. I'm sure we're going to get here, but I'm assuming that there will be a need to reach back out to the community and ask for additional funding, or like what happened with Rose School when their budget went above the amount that was allocated by the state. We had to go back to the community and ask. I feel like it's easier to ask for funds when everybody knows the construction costs have increased. I think that's like a legitimate thing for the community to accept. I'm worried about the new work because those delays happened as a result of not submitting the permit in enough time. Like if we had submitted the permit like prior to a certain date, those costs would not be on this this item. So I know that's like can't go back and fix things that happened, but it seems like $1 million and we haven't talked yet about a third school seems like a lot of money. I just would love to know what potential next steps are.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Emily. I think maybe if we go through, and maybe Mark, tell me if this sounds appropriate, but I think if we go through the rest of the presentation, the slides, I think you'll get a better picture of what, as a board, we've proposed and voted to do to make up for the delays and the cost of that, so that we do have a plan about it. So I'll just say that our plan is to not have to request more funding. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I do think we do have a plan that maybe just if once we get there, if you feel like that doesn't sufficiently answer, we can come back to it. Does that make sense, Mark? Do you think
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good question too. So.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, Mark, if you could speak to the issue about the permits just for a minute, just to kind of touch people up to kind of the picture of what happened there. I mean,
absolutely.
Like you said, we can't go back to that. It was a frustrating process, but maybe just to give people a little bit of a refresher about, or maybe people don't have the context of what happened there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just a quick word on that. When we permitted the Lyseth project, we followed a similar process that and it was a similar scope. It was an addition renovation to the school. We submitted our plans for the review by the city. We put the project out to bid, and it took approximately 8 weeks to receive the permit. We projected a similar outcome in permitting these 3 projects as well. And there were a lot of interpretive questions during the review of the project that exceeded certainly a 2-month period for the city to issue the permits. And so that was, I think, a degree of, we certainly tried to work very collaboratively with the city to get the information out as fast as they were asking the questions, but certainly it took a lot of time going back and forth to settle some of these interpretations on the code. And so in our mind, we didn't anticipate that it was going to be a different process than we had worked with the same jurisdiction on a similar scope project as we went down that road. But so that's a little bit about kind of the planning that was there, and the challenge also of trying to get the projects out to bid at a time when we were looking at the schedules and how they would work. And so it was really an effort to try to do the most efficient process of bidding 3 schools at a similar time. We staggered them, as you all remember, and to get those done as quickly as we could and get underway. So, but with that, I'll go past. We'll go through this, and then again, if there are further conversations or questions, we can certainly address those. And so the Reiki one was the one that took, I want to say around the longest time, but it took a while to resolve that one as well. The original delay claim came in at a very order of magnitude of $900,000 to $1 million. And through a lot of subsequent work, the final claim amount was for $719,732. The Reiki new work was originally $225. Again, there were subsequent conversations and scopes of work that were still being reviewed. The final claim for the new work was $304,527. So the total Reiki claim was just over $1 million. And so that cost was also reviewed when we reviewed the follow-up cost for the Presumpscot subcontractor delay claims and on May 3rd. And it was, so that's, or rather that will be reviewed on May 3rd. So when the school board meets to review those costs. So the here's kind of the summary, just under the $2 million mark for the new work and the delay claims for the delays in getting started. And so right now, the total that has been approved on the April 5th was the $793,992, and the pending approval claims on May 3rd will be for just over the 1 million mark, will be 1,194,000. So that those two total up to the 1.9 million, or almost 2 million.
Mark, can we just pause for a second?
Yep.
It has a question.
Just a wonder is if we were delayed the same period of time, why is the Reiki delay costs, significantly higher than in the other schools' delay costs?
Yeah, and again, I'll turn to Laura, who has been more intimately involved in the negotiation part of it. I certainly have my response, but Laura, I don't know if you want to.
Sure.
Provide.
Yeah, Reiki is probably the most complicated out of the three, with the phases and then with compressing in the work over the summer. So that's the reason. Presumpscott's pretty straightforward. It's mostly the new edition. Longfellow also has complexities, but you can see where that number was also pretty significant. But that's really the driver, is just the complexity of getting Reiki executed. And some of that summer work is requiring some additional staff just because there's so much work to be done in a short amount of time.
Good. Thank you, Laura. Any other questions? Okay. So then, sort of turning towards the question that Emily brought, is sort of what's the funding to cover the unexpected nearly $2 million in additional cost to the project. There was remaining funds left over from the Lyseth project in the amount of about $453,000. Some of that, a good part of that, came from the fact that we didn't use all of the funds that were allocated to the FFE budget, the furniture and equipment budget. And that's because we addressed the significant issues with furnishing the new spaces. We didn't need the total amount that was budgeted. And then there were also some funds that were left over. So that was actually, that's a positive in terms of the outcome of finishing the Lyseth project, completing it and having some funds available to be able to use towards the other three projects. As we settled all of the construction and project costs after the bids were received from all, and this is really thinking about across all four projects as part of the BFOF, there was still a bucket of funds that was not allocated for any of the four schools, and that amounted to $581,000. So those two right there were about 900, almost $1 million of funds that hadn't been allocated yet to one of the school project budgets, or one of the three school project budgets. And so that's when we looked at this, we looked at the funds that were unencumbered, that hadn't been either spent or earmarked for spending on the projects yet. The FFE budgets that we have for the remaining three schools, the total for those budgets was $2.2 million as well. And again, we haven't purchased any, at the time we haven't purchased any furniture. We've actually started purchasing some furniture. There's a small amount that's been used for some technology purchases, but the furniture budget is pretty much intact for the three remaining schools right now. And that's, again, just a budgeted amount. And we used, I think, right around 50% of the total allocated budget for Lyseth as a comparison for the furnishings that we purchased for that school. And then the fourth item is the current amount of construction contingency that is remaining for the three schools. And when I earlier spoke about the fact that we had, at the beginning of the project, we allocated 5% of the construction cost and held that in this contingency fund, because we know we're going to encounter issues as we go through the construction. There are going to be things that we didn't know were underneath the slabs or in the walls, or just things that are unknown as when we were designing the project that will come up. And so, and renovations are always trickier than new construction in that regard. So that hadn't been spent yet, but we know we're going to need some of that as we get through the construction of the projects. But if we added up those four values, there's still $4.5 million that hadn't been allocated. So when we think about the $2 million that we're looking at allocating for the delay claims, this is the area that we're looking at to find funding for it. And the first two were used in that April school board approval of funds for the Longfellow and the first portion of the Presumpscot. And so that's what this slide shows right here. So the April 5th approval amounts we're using the 400,000. Used 400,000. There's still a little bit of remainder left in the LICEF, about $58,000 in that. But that, and then we used funding from the remainder of the three schools, and so we still have. We used all of the 581,000, and we used a portion of the 400,000. We used 212,000 from the 400,000, leaving us with still 187,000 after. Again, this is after the settling the Longfellow and the first component of the new work and delay claim of Presumpscot. And at that time, that still left us the FFE budget for all three schools and the remaining contingency. I'll pause it. This may get confusing, and if it is, certainly go ahead and ask, but trying to break it down into information that's digestible. Okay. So the next the next amount that we're looking at funding is the Reiki and also the so this one is just the Reiki. So we break this down to a couple of pieces. So the Reiki cost of $1,024,259. The idea is to use that remaining $187,000 from LICEF and then look at the FFE budget to absorb the balance of that. So, and then the Presumpscot delay claim, that additional amount from the subcontractors of 170, the same thing. It's to look at using the FFE budgets right now to absorb that impact. And I believe the next slide probably shows us the result of that. So what that will do is it'll bring our FFE budget from 2.2 million to 1.2 million. So we're essentially going to be taking out about $1 million from the FFE budget for the three remaining schools. That's so that still leaves the construction contingency intact as we go through the construction of the three schools.
Could I just add one piece to this, Mark? Just wanted to let the committee know that the DABC, the District Building Committee, had a pretty robust conversation about the idea of using some of the contingency funds, and we really came to, from the professionals, best guess is that we really may need to use that money, as Mark mentioned earlier, with unforeseen costs, especially with the renovation pieces. So just wanted to share that with everyone, that was something that I was kind of hoping that it would make sense to use some of that, but in the end it really seemed like the best approach was to have that be there and not be in a situation where we allocated that to somewhere else and then didn't have that money to go back on. So just wanted to give that context. And then Liz, looks like you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, this may be a little premature, but I know quite a few months ago, we had talked about several options when we were still isolated by school. We were talking about what to do with any surplus money, so to speak, that was left over. And when we joined as a larger group, or perhaps at a DABC meeting, I'm not sure, Emily had mentioned, expanding Reiki with more pre-K classrooms because there won't be enough there to necessarily fulfill the Portland promise to have pre-K available universally to all students. So I'm just wondering where we're at with the money left over and the different options for the various schools. I know particularly for Presumpscot, there was perhaps some air improvement work to be done or other options. So generally, I'm just wondering where we're at with all of that, or if it's premature to even talk about it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's right now. Certainly, we will look at what we have for remaining funds after we get through some of the work. But I think the consideration right now is to see what may be reimbursed back to the FFE budget. And I don't know that there's going to be much opportunity to address some of those other alternates. I think, Elizabeth, that's what we were sort of evaluating at the time. And so I think right now that's kind of the general consensus, that we're likely not to see any of the alternates, that we likely look to see if how much we can cover with improving learning environments through the furniture and fixtures and equipment.
Does that answer your question, Liz? Okay. So Emily, go ahead.
Just a question in terms of what would be cut if we were to keep the 1.2 for the FFE. I'm kind of assuming that, and correct me if I'm wrong, like cabinetry, technology, built-in pieces are going to be the necessary pieces that we keep, and then potentially also carpeting. Like, does that fall into that? Like, what are the pieces of what is defined as FFE? And like we can go without tables. We have chairs, but what we need is cabinets. And, you know, what are the pieces, what are going to be the priorities to keep for the FFE budget?
Yeah, it's a good question, Emily. The way we like to think of it, the analogy is if you were to take the school and you took it upside down and you shook it, everything that kind of moves around, that's the furniture. And so all the casework and everything that's built into the building, that does not fall into that category. That's all anything that's sort of fixed as part of it. The one exception sometimes will say, like, for instance, the instructional technology comes out of that, and that sometimes gets fixed to the building itself. But it's the chairs, the tables, that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about purchasing it through the FFE budget. So at Lyseth, what we ended up doing was the library received new furniture, the administration area received new furniture that was part of the addition, and then the K-Wing received new furniture. And there were a lot of different furniture solutions that we reviewed and evaluated as part of that. But that's, and in some ways, that's why we've sort of used the FFE as this area, because we didn't end up spending all of it at Lyseth. And so thinking about a lot of these newly renovated classrooms still have the furniture that they can use. And so we're not slowing down anyone from using a space by not having furniture in it. Okay. So one of the conversations that we're really now starting to get into is what is that going to be that impact to FFE? And at Lyseth, we ended up breaking the furniture purchase into two phases. The first one was the furniture for the library and the administration area. The second one was the kindergarten wing, and that the library and admin area were finished first, and then the kindergarten wing was finished after that. And so that allowed us to kind of split it up and address the first piece of it, and then the K-wing after that. And there may be a way that we look at breaking apart the furniture bids into multiple packages. And that's something we'll evaluate as we get a little further into understanding what there may be available for funds for furniture, and as we look at a lens of equity across all the projects with purchase of furniture. And so one of the scenarios we're looking at right now is the Presumpscot project is the first one to be to approach completion. And so by October, November of this year, we'll be really almost there with the completion of the Presumpscot project. And so so at that time, we'll have a better sense of how much of the construction contingency we might be able to shift back into the FFE budget. And so that's it. Right now, our thinking is that we're going to evaluate where the needs are at each school and start looking at what level of furniture we can consider across all of them, and how we might distribute the funds equitably across the 3 schools. That's a further conversation that will involve several stakeholders, and so I'm sure we'll have further conversations about what that approach will be.
Mark, can I just to follow up on that? Can I just clarify that, especially for each school community here tonight, to understand that, when we are having to make those decisions, that there will be opportunities for staff and potentially families too, but I know staff are the ones who really know what is needed in buildings. There will be opportunities for staff to give feedback about what the priorities are, right? Okay. Thank you. I'll go ahead, Lori.
So just a question for Mark. So Mark, I'm assuming the furniture costs are rising alongside all the construction costs. So having to wait to bid anything out, things just continue to increase. And did you say Lyseth was about 50% less in cost, but you also didn't furnish all the classrooms, all the new classrooms, correct?
Yes, you're right, Lori, on both accounts that their commodity prices are increasing. We're starting to look at it. They have not seen quite the same spikes that we've seen in construction costs and construction materials, and so we're mindful of that and understanding the idea that when we start looking at purchasing, we want to have a strategy that's, again, use the word equity, it's equitable across the 3 schools. And so we have to evaluate understanding how much funding we have so that we can evaluate that. At the same time, we want to do it in a way that doesn't delay until everything's done, because inevitably we see prices only going up as interest rates rise and commodity prices increase as well. Okay. So in addition to, the discussion heretofore has been really on the delay claims. The extension in the schedule may have some other cost impacts as well, and we're evaluating those. And so that's just to keep on everyone's radar. There's a potential for, there's a clerk of the work that's assigned to the project, and they are essentially a professional that evaluates records the progress of the contractor every day. And so we have someone that's recording exactly what activity goes on, and that's done for several reasons. But one of the most important reasons is that it establishes a very clear record of the work and when it happened. So should there be ever an issue with the completion of work and how it was executed, we have a documented, photographed record of that. So that's one of the considerations that person potentially could be extended with the schedule. So that we're evaluating that, whether we need that extension or not. The other consideration is that the owner's representative is hired and was hired for a certain period of time, and the extension in the schedule would extend their through the additional 4 months that the projects at Reiki and Longfellow are extended out. And then there's also a potential for modulars to accommodate the delay in the scheduled work too. And so those, again, are what we call soft costs. They're not contractor costs that the contractor absorbs. They go in other line items on the budget, but we're just being mindful of keeping that there, and we'll discuss how and what those amounts are at future meetings. Okay, so that's the progress. It was a lot of effort on the part of many people to get through that. It was not a lot of fun stuff. It's not a lot of great information. The recommendation from the DABC was to go forward with using additional funds from the FFE to resolve the final delays as was presented tonight. The good news is, again, that's past us. We're underway. The construction is ongoing, which is exciting. We see spaces being transformed. And so that's the other side of the coin, that we're really enlightened, empowered by the transformation that's occurring. And that's, as Orr began the conversation tonight, that's something to keep in mind as we endeavor to get through this. So appreciate all of you hanging with us as we went through that information here tonight.
I'd like to add to that too, Mark. Everyone here, we've been through this together for quite a few years now. These numbers are tough to absorb. I've been living with these numbers for a year and a half. No one likes this position we're in. I was at the table with the owners of these construction companies, the subs, heavily debating and looking into these numbers. And the real costs that we're seeing here are monies that would have gone into these projects even if we were on schedule. So I try to contextualize it in a way that is optimistic that we can deliver these projects. We're not going to deliver them in the total package as we envisioned in the beginning, but we will deliver these projects. And they're hard numbers to look at. I'm going to be optimistic, and I believe we'll deliver both Presumpscot and Longfellow, and we'll have contingency left. We can roll that back in and augment in furniture or any other places that the community desires. But it's been a hell of a run, but we've got 3 projects and they're going up. I wish it could be different, but you know what they say about wishing doesn't get you anywhere. And but I wanted to let you know that we really, really scrutinized every dollar they were asking for, and we'll continue to do so as we move these projects forward. And lastly, just to all the principals, the staff, the students, our community is strong through the pandemic, through these BFOF projects. And I said on a sidebar, I said to myself as I was driving by Longfellow, and I said, I'm going to have to get that precast fixed in operational dollars. So it's not perfect, but we've come a long way, and I just thank everybody, and we'll continue to pound away here. Thank you all.
Yeah, I just want to close out with the dates here, so everyone's got them on their calendars here. We're thinking forward. So Tuesday, May 3rd will be the review of the DABC recommendation to fund the remainder of the Presumpscot delay and the Reiki amount. And then the DABC May meeting is on the 19th, and our meeting is on May 26th, and so it's 6 o'clock. So about 1 month's time. It'll be warmer and brighter, and we'll be just about at, I think, almost at Memorial Day weekend, and we'll all be looking forward to the 2 months of summer. Oh, no, I won't depress anyone. That's summer, so I'll stop the presentation here and or turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Steve, for that context. And I just want to also say that I feel confident our projects are going to get completed, and that we will do our very best to get the best FF&E we possibly can for each building, and acknowledging that it's not exactly as we had all hoped, but I do feel confident that our buildings are going to be in good shape and much improved for teaching and learning for all 3 of the school communities. I just wanted to come back to you, Emily Hurley, for a second, and we can follow up together after, but do you feel like your question kind of about the funding was answered in kind of the rest of the presentation?
It was, and I feel like it probably will be an ongoing conversation.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we're ending a little early at 7:20. If someone would make a motion for us to end the meeting, that would be great.
So moved.
Thank you. And then a second.
Second.
Thanks. So then just everyone in favor of ending our meeting, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here together tonight. And I hope everybody has a great night and see you at our meeting next month.